there are so many amazing, beautiful places. And you know what? Every country has bad people.
Of
Every
course.
country has rude people. Every country has all of those things. Like people say to me, oh, you're from Canada. Everybody's so nice. And I automatically say, no, they're not. Not everybody. Like, I'm glad people think all Canadians are polite and nice. Yay, that's nice. But that's not reality.
Hey, welcome to the Expat Diaries podcast, where we talk all things Costa Rica. If you are someone who is interested in making that leap from your home country to Costa Rica, and you're just like, oh, I just don't know. There's so many great stories that we cover on this podcast weekly, talking to people who've actually done it, talking to either expats or people who facilitate and help expats with that transition. And this week, we're really excited because we're talking to Sally Pederson. And Sally is one of our Canadian friends who has made the leap down to Costa Rica. And they have like just an incredible story. I just really want to dig into this and jump right in. And there could be a whole lot of things I can say, but I just really want to jump into this right off the bat and go, okay, so when was the first time, welcome, Sally, when was the first time that you actually came to Costa Rica?
Well, thank you very much, Robin, for having me. And my story is probably a little bit different, and I don't always recommend to do things the way that I do things. So just a little caveat with that. My first time in Costa Rica, I believe, was 2007.
Okay.
And I had done a little bit of research on it, looking online for properties and things. And on day 3 of my first time in the country, I put a deposit down on a house, not a condo, an apartment, a full 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom swimming pool house.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a little bit crazy.
And you're not the first person who's told me a story like that. Like, I'm not kidding. Like there was another lady, she lives over in the Nasara area, and she had done the same thing. She came down with her 2 sisters. They just came down on a vacation, and she looked at a condo. And then like by the end of that day, it had never even crossed her mind. It's the first time she'd even ever thought about visiting Costa Rica, and she bought a condo. I was like, man, y'all are a lot more impulsive than I am, because I take my long ass time figuring it out. So that was in 2007, you bought that house? Oh, wow. Yes. And so tell me what that process was like you buying a house in a foreign country.
Well, it was interesting because, I mean, things are very different in Costa Rica than in Canada. In Canada, we have the MLS system. And so when we got there, we were working with a realtor and talking and looking at different properties. And the one evening we said, like, let's just look around a little bit in town at the other real estate offices. And so we went in just because we wanted a second opinion, because we didn't know anybody in the country. Like, right. It was first time there. We didn't know anything. And so we went to another real estate company, and we were completely honest. We said, you know what, we've been working with this person. They've been touring us around everything, but we find a few things strange. Like, we never get a sheet that has information on the property. It's like he calls the person and then tells us how much it is. And like, we're really not sure. And he just said, yeah, that's how things work here. Like, you don't get those information sheets. It's not everything, all neat and orderly. And there is no MLS system. So they're going to show you the listings they have. If you don't like any of them or don't want it, or you want something different, you have to go to another real estate office, and they will show you the listings they have. And we just said, well, like, that's kind of, it's strange to us because of where we're coming from. And then I just thought, I didn't want to waste that person's time either, spending all this time showing us properties and then just going to somebody else, or the same thing, going to somebody else. And then, somebody misses out on all that time because they don't work together.
Yeah, it's not what we're used to, for sure. And I came from real estate background too. And it's funny, the first time that I kind of experienced that in Costa Rica, I'm like, how do you know what other people have listed? They're like, we don't care what other people have listed. Like, it's our job to show you the properties that we represent, and only those. And I'm like, are you familiar with the MLS system? Like, it really just opens up what you can sell so much more. And like the game down there is just to list as much property as you can, so that you have the best corral of properties for someone to look at, so they don't have to go look with another agent.
Yeah, it's, and it's just something, even to this day, it just doesn't make sense to me, because even if you split commissions, at least you're making something over nothing. And you could be making something for not even showing your property if somebody else sells it. So it's just always been strange to me. And I just don't understand it, but that's the way it is there. And, you just have to adjust to how things are when you live in different countries.
Well, and I think it's just and it could just be even as simple as like they don't have access to that technology, and how do you connect everything, and how does that all work? Back in the day, before there was an actual online MLS, so this is how long ago I was a realtor, there was an MLS book. And the book had all of the properties that were for sale, and it was printed about every 2 weeks. So it could be out of date. By the time that you got that book, that property could be sold. So you did have to call the agent and go, hey, is this still available? But we would walk around with this whole book of properties. And that was in probably, 2000, nope, probably 1996. And like, it didn't take long. I mean, think about it, the internet wasn't even a thing yet, really. And
Right.
so it didn't take a long before like that transition. But then there was still some old school realtors who'd still walk around with their MLS book until they just quit printing them.
Right.
So you guys bought this house. Where did you buy at?
Tamarindo area.
Okay. And so you bought a full blown house in Tamarindo.
Yeah.
And then did we plan on this being like a vacation property and we're going to rent it out part of the time?
Yeah, it was my perspective. It was forced savings for my retirement home. So it was going to be my retirement home, and it was forced, it was, instead of putting money into an RRSP or something that I have no idea if it would even be available or there, or what would be there by retirement time, then I would have an additional property in a place that I would probably retire, was the plan. And I wanted 4 bedrooms because then people could come and visit. And I could have people visit and rent it out in the meantime until then, because I'm still far away from retirement. So,
well, and that's a good size house for like a VRBO or an Airbnb. I mean, that's a good size house. Like you can go, this I can rent more regularly. So did everything turn out as planned?
No, it's interesting when you have a plan, life happens, and things change. So ironically, though, I ended up moving into that house a few years later, in 2011. I ended up moving down to Costa Rica with my daughter and my dog. So there were 3 one-way tickets down, and it was unplanned, again, a bit unexpected, but just after things happened, I'm just like, I had enough, time for a change, and still didn't know anybody there, even though it was years. I mean, acquaintance of a few people. We had used the property vacation a few times, but not enough to build up any type of rapport or relationship really with anybody. So had to figure out school for my daughter and how everything worked, because.
And what grade was she in?
Then she would have been in grade 9, 8,
Wow.
9, around there. Yeah.
That had to be a big uprooting for her. She was just all on board. Let's go.
No. Well, I mean, because originally I was going to move to California and expand my business. I had a safety consulting and trading company, and my business partner at the very last minute said he would only be my business partner if I pretended to be his fiance, and he would buy me a house and a ring, and if after send my daughter to any private school in the world, and after 5 years, when she was like done out of school, graduated, and everything else, about 4 or 5 years, if I wasn't happy, he would give me $2 million and we could part ways. And I declined the offer. And then I was like, screw it. I got a place in Costa Rica. I'm moving to Costa Rica. And about a month later, we were in Costa Rica.
That is an interesting proposal. I mean, seriously, that's an interesting proposal.
I mean, that's a whole other topic to get in.
For sure.
Yeah. So that was kind of like the icing on the cake of the move. So she was all happy about going to California, not Costa Rica. And it was a big change for her. Like, we didn't know anybody. We didn't speak Spanish. We didn't know.
Well, she wouldn't have known anybody in California though either.
No, but TV and everything, California, it's
Sure.
like, better. And the language is the same and bigger because back then, Tamarindo, like, I'm not sure what the population is now, but it was small, like really small. I think she ended up with in the school she went to, like 10 kids in her class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a big I mean, it was a big change for both of us, but she was not happy with it, that's for sure.
Well, and I'm trying to go back in my brain to 2011. Like, I don't think like video chat was even a thing. So for her to keep in contact with her friends, what was it really? Did we have access?
Skype back then, there
That's
was Skype, but Skype just never, I don't think, really took off or became that popular, but it was available. And then for phone, what did we have? Magic Jack.
I remember
We had
that.
Magic Jack and Skype back then. Yeah.
Okay, that all makes sense. I remember now. Like, and I still have. It's funny. I was working with a dev team on this app that we're rolling out, and like someone said, "Oh, he only likes to communicate in Skype," and I'm like, I don't even know if I remember my Skype login. Let me go see if I can find it. And then after like about 3 months of us talking back and forth, and I'm like, can I just text you? This is ridiculous. And he goes, yeah, I don't even know why you wanted Skype. And I'm like, no. I did not want Skype. I thought you wanted Skype. Like I struggled to even, like, my username was something weird, like Barefoot Coach or something. I'm like, I don't even know where that came from. Like, that was my Skype, whatever. So yeah, that brings back memories. Okay. So now you guys are full force in Tamarindo, living in your big old house. I assume you probably adopted a few dogs. I mean, that's just what happens normally.
Yeah, she wanted to save every dog. We had some that just, like, there was one in the neighborhood that came by all the time because when we rented it, we did a couple long-term rentals, and there were people there that had a dog, but when they left the country, they gave the dog to another person in the gated community. So the dog still kind of thought that our house was its home, and he would just, like, I saw him do it. So I know because before I would come downstairs and his name was Bruiser, and there Bruiser was laying on the floor. Or one time I was like, got out of the shower, I was drying my hair, and when I lifted my head up, there was Bruiser staring at me upstairs, wiggling his tail. I'm like, how did you get in the house? And
That's funny.
He would hit the screen door with his nose and keep hitting it until it started to part a little bit, and then open it up and come in and lay down because he was home.
Yeah. Well,
And we had another one too that came around. We named her Callie, but like we never fed her. I would give her a couple treats every now and then because you could tell she was someone's dog.
yeah.
But she did not like Costa Rican females. My cleaning lady, she would bark and bark. I would have to kick her out and make the dog leave because she wouldn't stop barking at our cleaning lady we had. And I was dating a guy there, and he had a daughter, and the dog did not like the daughter either. There was something about Costa Rica females.
There was some trauma that happened.
Yeah. But with us, she would, and same thing. I would just come home or like come downstairs or wherever, and the dog would be there, and I'm like, okay. And then we'd gone for days or weeks, and then come back for a bit of time and be gone again. And so, yeah, and that's where I kind of drew the line. We helped out. We gave lots of food for other animals and helped in other ways. But I was like, no, we don't need any more dogs in this house.
Well, they just all become the country dogs, right? They're part of your life. You know them, you get the luxury of loving on them, and then they go somewhere else. And so we were cracking up when we were there in May, and there was dogs that would come running through the property that we were renting. Like, one would have a collar and one didn't have a collar. And I'm like, well, one belongs to somebody and the other one is its friend, and it belongs to no one. And so the one that belonged to no one decided to stay with us for the entire week we were there. Like, it was outside, never came in the house. Like, even if the door was open, it never came in the house. It would stand right outside there. We'd go outside, pet it, play with it. If we had, leftover chicken or whatever, we would put out there, but it never ever came in whining for anything or begging. It was the most polite stray dog you've ever met in your life. And the kids named it, I forget what we named it. And so and it almost looked like it was mostly Australian Shepherd. She was a pretty pup, but like, and then we're gone. I'm sure she went back to wherever her house was, and she didn't stay with us the whole time. She would just come up in the evening whenever we'd get back.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, some of them have great lives and they're very free to do things, but there is a lot, and we saw a lot that were just starving to death and sick, and that was really tough.
Yeah.
We helped save a few, and I said to my daughter, I'm like, we can't save them all. Like it is, it's just impossible. There's too many.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now you're in Tamarindo, living there. You're loving on some local dogs. How long before your daughter's like, I don't want to be here anymore?
Well, I mean, she never really wanted to be to begin with, but she was okay with it. But the first year, because I still had my company up in Canada, and so the first year, I think we went back to Canada probably 5 times.
Good.
And then I brought her back for the summer, so she stayed with grandparents. So she would end up going back for the summer, going back for holidays. So she did quite a bit of back and forth. And so when when she was 16, she was finally she was able to fly herself. So I knew that point was coming. And then so the time before that, I would say, okay, we go to the airport. I'm like, what do we do? Like it's on you. I just want to make sure that you know what you're doing for the next time. And then, so she does her first flight by herself back, and she's like, I really like flying by myself. It's fun. I'm like, more fun than with me. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, what? Come on. So she got used to that, but then she left when she was just about halfway or so through her final year, because she really wanted a real graduation. She's like, Mom, it's not prom here. It's not like graduation. There's like no kids here. She's like, I want to go back and have a real graduation. And so we talked about a bunch of different options and different things. And so she ended up going back to Canada. So she finished up her last bit of school there so she could have graduation in Canada with her friends. Because she said, I'm like, you have friends here. It's like, they're not my real friends. My real friends are in Canada. All right.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was, it was tough, but at the same point, I wanted her to be happy and experience those things and stuff like that. At the time, she said it was like the worst time of her life living in Costa Rica. But now I don't think she feels that way. I've talked to some of her friends and they said, no, she doesn't say that now anyway. So the perspective has changed with time. And it was, I mean, at that kind of 13, 14 years old, it's tough to uproot and change kids. Some are great with it and love it, but the most it's hard.
A little traumatic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So then you were just in Costa Rica all by yourself?
Then I was solo, empty nester, gonna be turning 40. Just sad, No, it wasn't that bad. I mean, those were the things, but yeah. And so I decided, I was just like, I'm turning 40. I'm an empty nester. I should go travel. It's what I want to do. And so, then, yeah, I looked at renting it out again and traveling and moving abroad for the second time.
Yeah. So where did you go? So you sold it, right? You sold your home.
Yeah. I don't have it anymore. And so I ended up having Barcelona, Spain as home base.
So what year did you sell?
Gosh, that would have been 2016.
Okay.
I think was around there. Yeah. I was in Spain in 15. I think I started out there. So right around there.
So why Spain? What drew you to Barcelona?
In part, I had a checklist of 5 things on what I wanted. And I got tired. I traveled for almost a year and I got tired of living out of a suitcase. And I was like, I need a base, and I wanted great weather, but not always hot like Costa Rica. Like I wanted, but I didn't want cold like Canada. Like that was,
For sure.
so I needed just something with a little bit of seasons, great international airport. I remember attractive men were on my list. What else? And I had two other things. There's only like five things. I don't even remember what they all were now. And unfortunately, though, with attractive men, there were a lot. Like there's a lot of men in Barcelona that really take care of themselves, but unfortunately, most of them are gay. And I didn't realize that before I went there, and didn't work out for me. Still single. Damn. But hey, it's still nice to look at. I didn't mind looking at that at the eye candy, and you gotta roll with it. When you
For
don't know.
sure.
Part of
So
it.
you were in, so you like, did you rent a house or a home or a flat or whatever in Barcelona?
First, I just rented a room because
Okay.
I did well, because when I went there, I was there for a week, and on day 3, I decided Barcelona was going to be home base, and I still had some travel plans. I had to go back to Canada and down to the United States for something. I can't remember what. And then so I did that, and I went to the States. I went back to Canada for one day and flew back to Barcelona. So at first, I just rented a room, and it was only supposed to be just temporary while I was looking for something. And I
Right.
stayed there for 2 years
In
about
that
that.
room?
In the room. Yeah, because I had great roommates, and I still traveled because I didn't have, at first, I didn't have a residency. So I had to do my 90 days in and 90 days out of the Schengen agreement countries.
Mm.
And so in part, I was like, well, by the time I get there, I didn't mind. Like I had a nice room. I had great roommates. I was only there for at most 3 months. And sometimes it'd only be 2 months, and I'd be gone for a month or two and back. And so I was in and out so much. And then I got a student visa and stayed and eventually got an apartment and settled for a bit.
So
And then
how long then while you, and student visa, like, so did you go to school?
yeah, I got really lucky with that. So I was registered for school. I went to Spanish classes for 2 hours twice a week.
Hmm.
And
And so then that got you your student visa.
that got me the student visa.
Smart.
Now I can't guarantee that's always going to happen, because I've heard that, like, for some people it is supposed to be full time.
Right.
But I don't know. I happened to luck out, or somebody was being nice, whatever it may have been. It worked for me.
I love it. I love it. So how long then did we call Barcelona home?
Barcelona was home until probably, so after the pandemic, 2023, 22. Yeah, when after kind of the pandemic and things started to open, I started to travel more, and I was like, I need to get out of here. And started traveling around more.
So were you in Barcelona then during the pandemic? That's where you were. That's where you
For
were.
the most part, yes, I did. I
Because I know
did travel
coming
back
and
to
going
Canada.
from Canada. I know coming and going from Canada was almost impossible.
But I don't know if I timed it well or whatever, but each year during the pandemic, I still made it back to Canada at least once.
Nice.
Now, when I got back, there was times I remember I only planned on being back for 3 weeks, and I ended up being back for 6 weeks because my flight got rescheduled. And so it wasn't like just a smooth in and out easy, but I did make it in and out during those times. And then I sold my house at that time in Canada in like 2021, I think it was, because I still had that there. And so then after that, I thought I wanted to invest and have property somewhere. And in Barcelona, Barcelona's so overpriced. Like, it's ridiculously expensive. And there's problems with squatters. And I thought, with the amount that I travel, I don't want some squatters getting into my place, and I'm gone for months and
Right.
coming back and then having to deal with them. And it can take years to get them out.
Right.
And so I started to do kind of a house hunting international trip, and picked up a property in Montenegro.
Okay, so for those who don't know, where is Montenegro?
So Montenegro is in Europe. It's part of the former Yugoslavia, so
Okay.
going way back. So if we were to look at a map of Europe, it's east of Italy and
Okay.
north of where we have Greece, and then Albania, Montenegro, Croatia.
Nice.
So along the Adriatic Sea, it's a very tiny country, so most people don't know where it is, and the population is roughly 650,000 people in the entire country. So it's
Nice.
quite small, but it's so beautiful. It's
I
so
bet.
beautiful.
And so the temperatures there are like what?
Um, because I'm on the coast, I like it where I'm at. There is no snow. It's rare for it to get under 10 degrees Celsius. But inland there is snow, there's skiing in the mountains, and so there's times when I'm walking through town because it's surrounded by mountains. The town that I'm in is we'll see the mountains and the snow covered, but it doesn't get into town itself.
Nice.
So it doesn't get too cold. It does get more rain because it is on the coast. Um, but it's beautiful and it is very nice.
And has your daughter come to visit?
No, not yet.
Okay. And so tell me about your
I
home.
traumatized her with Costa Rica. No, she still travels, but she's working quite a bit. She's got a boyfriend, dogs. It's she's kind of living her life right now. So
So what's your house like that you found that you love?
it's small. It's a studio apartment, so it's not very big. But it's a perfect location. I think I'm walk to the beach in 10 minutes, so close enough to be there, but not so close where I hear the boom, 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 boom of the music and sound,
Right.
especially in the summertime, because I
Right.
like close, but not too close. It's super central located. The building is built well. It's probably I don't know. I'd say the building, I think, is probably about 20 years old. So, concrete building built well. Um, and it's simple, but it's perfect. And my schedule's just been crazy. I say the last few years, my entire life, really, if I'm being honest. But this last year, it's been a lot. So I've only spent one night in my place there this year.
Oh wow.
So having it to be a studio apartment is perfect because I'm not really there that much. But at the same time, it's very inexpensive as well compared to a lot of other countries, even compared to Costa Rica. My utility bills, even when I am there, the one I was there last summer for a month, um, and I had AC on all the time because it does get quite hot in the summertime. And my utility bill for electricity, I think, was it's around 30 euros. So that would be maybe like 40 US dollars. So
That's not bad at all. That's a dream.
there are certain things that are very inexpensive. And obviously if it was bigger, it would be a little bit more. But even if it was double the size,
Right. And then
it's
you have good access to airports and to uh, comings and goings.
Yeah, there's a smaller airport that offers some direct flights to certain European countries. That's only about 20 minutes away, but in the capital, Podgorica, the main airport is probably about an hour drive. And I mean, it's interesting. It's a very small it's a very small airport, but it's bigger than other ones that I've been to, and you don't have to be there 2 or 3 hours before your flight. Like, I most times when I go to Canada, I'm on the early morning flight because I have to fly to Vienna, then to Germany, then over, so it's long, and the first flight leaves at 7:30, but the airport doors don't even open till 5:30, close to 6, whenever they're kinda there and ready, and you don't wanna be there super early because 'cause you'll be waiting outside.
So let's go back to Costa Rica for a minute because I think about all of the people who are considering an expat life, right?
Mhm.
And they have family. They all have family. Like, and at what point does your family go, "You're just nuts. What are you doing? Like, you're heading into a third world country that has maybe some first world options, but mostly like this is what you're heading to." Like, what did your parents think about this whole trek out of Canada and living somewhere else where they didn't feel like they could probably help you or save you should anything happen, or you know what I'm saying?
Yep. They were not happy,
Mm,
in part because I was taking the granddaughter away. So, my parents weren't very happy, and I call them my in-laws. So, my husband had passed away when my daughter was, what was she? She would have been 4 years old.
Mm.
But I did have up to that point a very close relationship with them, and they were really not happy about the move. But it was just I made the decision because it was what I needed to do for me,
Right.
and a little bit selfish, but at the same point, I believe with all parents, like each person is the most important person, because if I'm not happy and I'm not doing well
Hmm.
emotionally, physically, mentally, everything, I can't be a good parent. And
Right.
so we have to, kind of, I think number one is the individual parent. Then if you're still in a couple, number two is that couple relationship. And then third are the kids. Because
Right.
again, it's just structure wise. And there's people that are going to completely disagree, and that's okay. But it's what I needed to do. My friends, they were like, oh, we know you were going to go. We
Yeah.
knew, but we just didn't think it would be yet.
Mm.
We thought you would, wait for her to finish school, maybe a few years after. Um,
But think
and
about how much richer her life is for having that experience over her classmates or over her friends. And even though at the time it was like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. And now she'll look back on it with a different paintbrush, right? And that, oh my gosh, there was like these, it'll almost be her idea after a while. She'll be telling it in her stories. There's the years that I lived in Costa Rica and I went to school there and I did XYZ. And like it'll be part of her quilt of her life. And it's just another layer of experiences that you got to give her, even if it was against her will or like, I'm not 1,000,000% on board, she will still, there's a time, my daughter is like, so all my kids that have been to Costa Rica have been there. Like I didn't make them go. Like you don't make somebody go to Costa Rica. All my kids are adults. But my youngest one, my daughter, like when she was like in her early 20s, she hadn't been yet. She's like the only one that hadn't been yet. She had no interest in going whatsoever. She's just like, I'm not outdoorsy like you. I, I just don't want to do that thing. And she'd gotten herself into a relationship that was not ideal.
Mhm.
And this is going to sound horrible. And you're a parent, buck it up because this shit's going to happen to you. And she picked the wrong guy. And the wrong guy was in another relationship they didn't need to be in. It was like just this whole thing. And I was like, what are you doing? And on top of that, and not that how much money you make makes a difference, but if you're walking away from a wife and kids and you only make $11 an hour and you think that you're going to be a mate to somebody else while you're paying child support on 3 other kids at $11 an hour, like, please let me show you the math, Shasta, of what this is going to look like, because this is crap. All of this is crap. I'm just telling you, you're worth more than that. And she had forgotten, like I had taken her, she'd been to Mexico a couple of times, like she had been outside the country. And so I kidnapped her one day and just brought her down to Costa Rica for 4 days. My business partner and I just grabbed her and went, look, you're just going with us. We got you a flight. You're going with us, because she had forgotten who she was. She thought that fishing in that mud puddle was all that she was capable of. Like, this is all that is out here. So this is just what I'm going to fish right here. And so I had to remind her who she was. Like, there's puddles everywhere. You could go to this country, this country, and you can look in puddles everywhere. Don't get stuck with the leftover water on this asphalt. Like, this is not where you need to be fishing. And I just had to remind her that, and we had a nickname for this guy too, because he was just such whatever. And we still call him that. I don't even know what his name is. We called him Bag of Dicks. That's what we called him. And like, I'm sorry, we're moving on. This guy is not your guy. And I need to remind you. And in 4 days, like there was like this reset. Like she was like, oh yeah, I forgot that there's this whole big world out there. And I don't just have to look in this little puddle to find who I is. And now like not because of that, but she's happily married. Her husband's a police officer, like there's just all of these things that in her life are different now. And it's just because they have to remember who they are. Like, you are on a big old planet. You're not just in Missouri or in Joplin, Missouri, or in this county. Like, the whole world is open to you. Please go explore it and find something else that makes your heart happy. And even though she did find her husband here, but she had to just remember that her value was more. And sometimes just getting out of your environment helps do that. And it makes them so much more well-rounded. And so she went back. Finally, we went back this past year, or this year, and took her husband and her 2 stepkids with her. who were like 12 and 13, and they had never been to Costa Rica. And Shasta had only been there for 4 days when I was beating her about the head going, not this. And so she got to experience it now, like in the joy of it, other than because she was resistant. She was mad I was taking her to Costa Rica. She was mad the whole time she was there. She was mad. She didn't want to hike. She didn't want to walk somewhere. She didn't want to, like, none of those things. But then when she experienced it this year, it was a different flavor for her because now she could like share it with her family and she could look at it through different eyes. And like she had some familiarity from when she was here, but like she hadn't had enough time. And so I was so glad that to at least share that experience with them of leaving the country and showing them the place I love. And you guys may never move out of the US. That's okay. But at least now when you think of me, you'll know where I am. In your brain, there will be a location and you're like, oh, mom's good. She's right there.
Right. And it's, it is really interesting because unfortunately, so many people listen to mainstream media, and I'm as time goes by and I get older and the world changes, I become more and more anti-world mainstream media. And people don't realize, like they hear things and think things are so bad. Like I put up something from my podcast. I had somebody on who lives in Mexico, and they were like, oh, why would you move to Mexico? Just wait till the cartel finds you and blah, blah, like all of this, like just stupid stuff. Like I just want, like, I'm not even going to comment. And I just thought, you have no idea. I think there's almost 3 million US citizens living in Mexico. Like it's not all bad. And there's wonderful, great places. And so when you kind of step out of what you know, you realize and you learn how many wonderful, great people there are in the world and beautiful places. Like Mother Nature is just stunning and gorgeous. And to get away from what we know and like you said, hike and go for walks and eat like fresh, real food that hasn't been sprayed with tons of chemicals and just to do different things. The world is amazing. I think that's why, I move around and live in so many different places because there is so much to see. And
for sure,
I'm planning potentially finding my next place next year. It'll be the 6th country that I've lived in because there are so many amazing, beautiful places. And you know what? Every country has bad people. Every country has rude people. Every country has all of those things. Like people say to me, oh, you're from Canada. Everybody's so nice. And I automatically say, no, they're not. Not everybody. Like, I'm glad people think all Canadians are polite and nice. Yay, that's nice. But that's not reality. That's just like all of any country isn't whatever people think. And there's just amazing, and just the different culture and food. And once you get out of it, just like what your daughter had to do, sometimes you just have to get out of it for a few days to realize, wow. And I've met so many people that wouldn't travel, didn't go anywhere, and they just go to one place. And then they're like, oh, this is amazing. I want to come back. I want to go to other places. I want to see more of the world. And it's kind of taking those blinders off.
Right. It's funny because this is a true story. So every year I would plan a vacation. And for quite a while, I was a single parent. So I would have 4 kids that I was taking on vacation with me. And so like one of the first vacations that we took internationally, we took all of the kids to Mexico. And I hadn't initially planned on going there. I think I don't remember where we were planning, but we weren't planning on Mexico. And this was the year that the swine flu, right? Okay. So Mexico has like this epidemic going on of the swine flu. Nobody can go. You shouldn't go to Mexico. And the minute that the media said swine flu, Mexico, I like literally booked our trip to Mexico. I like 1,000,000% booked it. I'm like, you want to know why? I say, because all of these other idiots will cancel their trips and we will have like so much service and so many people being so nice to us. Like I got like such a deal on our Airbnb. Like it was literally like this 7-bedroom. Went down to Playa del Carmen, 7-bedroom home, like literally steps to the beach. And it was gorgeous. And I negotiated with that woman to the point where she said, please, just when you leave, turn the AC off because like, I'm not even making any money on this at this point. And I'm like, thank you. And it was so funny on the way back that we had to fill out this health form that said that you haven't had like a runny nose or a cough or anything. And the same Shasta, the same one was like, I think my throat is sore. I'm like, give me that pen. You are not having a cold right now. It says, I will keep you in Mexico, you dumbass. She was like, at that time, I think she was like 13 or something. Oh my Lord. But like, that's the thing. Like when the media says, hey, don't ever go to that place right there. I'm like, let's go there. I'm going there because
it's a great time to go.
Absolutely. Because everyone else will just swallow the Kool-Aid and go, oh, look, let's go over here and stay in Colorado, do whatever. I'm like, no way, man, I'm going to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny. I love the well-rounded part of it. I think that it's funny because a lot of people used to, and I don't think that they do anymore, like take a year off between high school and college and go travel Europe or go travel somewhere around the world. And parents are like so stringent right now about, no, you got to get enrolled in college. You got to do this thing. And I'm like, why do they have to? Why can't they go see the world for a year or for a summer or for whatever and go like get that exposure? Because maybe all of the things that they were fed in school are not the things that was necessarily in their diet. You know what I'm saying? That they needed other things. And I wish we were back to that again, that would be a thing, that it was just more of the norm, that you could take a year off and intern somewhere in South America or in Central America or in Europe or even in Asia and just literally get some more life experience before you start the drudgery of what life can be sometimes.
Well, and it's too, like, I joke with friends. I'm like, well, if I ran the world, not that that would ever happen. I'm like, it would be forced, mandatory that every single person, either before college, probably before, because it's a bit better because you don't know what you, like, how many people in college really know exactly what they want to do for the rest of their life? And everything changes. It was one thing with my daughter when she was talking about university. She's like, I don't know what I want to do. And I said, don't think about what you want to do for the rest of your life, because that's not going to happen. Jobs that are available now aren't going to be around. Things that aren't available now are going to become common and popular. But it's also more so than that, is other than just like getting to know yourself and the things that you like I say to people too, I'm like, your beliefs are not your beliefs. Your thoughts
Right.
and your truths are maybe true to you, but they're not the truth.
Correct.
Because for me, I think and believe what I think and believe because of where I grew up, how I was raised, the life experiences I've had, the good, the bad, the everything else. It doesn't mean that they're right, doesn't
Right.
mean that they're wrong. They just are. And so when people are forced to travel, and so to go back to that, they would be forced to spend a minimum 1 to 2 years in a country where they don't speak the language. And so culturally, it's very different. Language wise, it's very different, because then you get to really know people. You get to be more understanding, more open to things, and learning more. And then you realize it's not so, again, kind of going to back to the media and politics. It's like, if you don't agree with everything I agree with, one thing different, you're the enemy. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So with travel, and more so when you live somewhere, you have to go through those struggles. Like, why do they do banking this way? Why do they do car registration this? Why do I have to go to the office to pay my bill all the time? Why can't I just pay in advance? And like, just a number of different things. And you just kind of learn, well, because that's the way it is. And so just because I'm used to things a certain way, or then also, well, why do I think this? Why do I believe this? And especially when it comes to like religion and politics and stuff. I love having conversations. I'd ask people, like, why do you think that? Why do you believe that? And very most often people will say, because it's true. Like, what makes it true? And they can't answer why it's true. And most times it's because grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, my experience, this, that. So maybe it's your truth. But sometimes if we can look back and think, why do I think that? Why do I believe that? We'll change our thoughts. Or other times I've had conversations with people and I've said, if I had that experience, I absolutely would believe and think what you think. But because this was my experience, this is why I believe and think what I think, and we'll never agree, but now I can understand.
Right.
And travel and moving abroad really helps with that, and really makes people realize, like, we're all people, we're all the same.
It's funny because my business partner, her fiance is from Denmark and lives in Denmark. And they met like a zillion years ago when he was a foreign exchange student in the US, and then didn't see each other for a large number of years, both married, both had kids, and then like came back together. And so in Denmark, you know, their politics are a certain way. And he's so funny because he always wants to discuss it, you know, and I know where he stands on everything, and I want to be friends, right? Like I just want to be friends. And so he'll like go, "Hey, what did you think about XYZ?" And I'm like, "I'm not discussing politics with you." And he's like, "What do you mean? Friends should be able to discuss this." I'm like, "No, because you don't want to discuss it. That is not your intent. Your intent is to argue about it, and I'm not up for an argument with you. And so I'm not going to play this game. We're not discussing this." He's like, "You mean for like the rest of our lives we can never discuss this?" I'm like, "No. You don't vote in my country. I'm not going to debate this with you. And I won't debate what goes on in your country with you. Like, I won't be going, oh my gosh, are you going to, I cannot believe that you guys, it's illegal to carry a pocket knife in Denmark. How do you go fishing?" Like, that's none of my business. That's y'all's rules. My husband doesn't leave the house without 2 pocket knives on every day. Like, I don't even know why he needs to, but he has 2 every day. And so it's funny because I know how he stands on things, and it's not like his whole country feels like that. And
Right.
so like it's just one of those things, like all of these other countries watch the US
Mm-hmm.
because it affects them. It does affect them deeply. Our policies
Absolutely.
do affect them because we are the watchdogs for the entire stinking world. And, you know, whatever our financial policy is can affect trade or can affect their economics as well. And so I do understand that. However, I won't even argue politics with somebody sitting right next to me. So, like, how I vote is so personal to me that it is none of your business. And I'm not on the campaign trail. So I'm not here to convince you how to vote. I don't care how you vote. That's your own business. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to vote for what's best for Robin, not even what's best for the United States. I literally know what's best for me and how I want to live my life. And these things right here come along, and I'm like, oh, let's vote for what's good for the world. No. The world is not concerned with me. I'm concerned with me. So this is the candidate that I am picking that is the best for the things that I want to accomplish in my life. And if I don't win, okay, great. I will adapt to whatever is going on. And then the next time around, I'll go, which one is the best for Robin? Like, not for Missouri, not for the United States, not for North America, not for the world. Like, what is best for me? And I think that too many people don't even know like what their goals are to go, am I aligned with this candidate?
Right. That's true. And it's then, and being able to see where I think the problem, and I agree, it's none of anybody's business. You vote how you want and what you want. But if people just actually thought about their why,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's in everything. Like, why do you want to move abroad? If you're trying to get away from you are always around you. Because I've
Exactly.
had people like, I just need to get away. I'm not happy about this. Well, if you're just not happy, it doesn't matter where you are. Right. And that's the same with, with politics. And if you can't articulate or just have discussion, not
Mm-hmm.
argument, not trying to convince. One of my best friends, we do not agree on much when it comes to politics, but we have great conversations
Yeah.
because sometimes we make each other think. She's like, well, blah, 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 this or that. And she's like, well, I'm pretty sure this. And I'm like, oh, I thought that meant this. And we both kind of like, we need to look into that and see.
Let's Google this.
Yeah. And that's where we should be. And lots of things will just be like, you know what? We know we're never going to agree on that. I can understand. I appreciate you have the opposite opinion of me, and
Mhm.
I can still love you and be one of your best friends. And we just don't agree on that,
Absolutely.
which is good.
It's
But
how
it
it's
comes
how it
down to
should be.
the why, and it comes down to the why. Like,
Mhm.
why do you think that? Why do you believe that? Why do you feel this way? Why do you want to move abroad? Why do you want to do that?
For sure.
And if you can't explain it and articulate it, then maybe we need to think about it, and more than just because it's true, or just like those aren't real answers.
For real, 100%. Well, Sally, I've appreciated your time today. And I'm like always, like, I could always stay on here forever just chit chatting back and forth about stuff. But one thing that I did want to talk about real quick before we sign off here, because I made myself a note, make her talk about this because it's freaking funny. And it's
Uh-oh.
your phone. It was your phone bill.
Oh. I did make a little bit of a mention of that. Yeah. So Yeah, the story behind that. So when I first got to Costa Rica, so I've had my place for a few years, right? But we had property management company taking care of it, everything else. And when I got there and I started to meet some people, and they said, often the power goes out and this and that. So if your phone's not working, you need to call the phone company and see and let them know. And I said, well, first of
How
all, how do I call the phone company if my phone's not working? That's problem number one. So they said, well, then you have to get there. And so, okay. So of course, one day my phone's not working. I'm like, okay, well, I got to drive to the phone company. So drive there and I go and I sit down. I say, well, my phone's not working. They asked for my number. I gave it to him. And in a very serious face, he's like, well, you didn't pay your bill. I said, oh, I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't get anything. I didn't get anything emailed. I didn't get anything in the mail. Like I didn't know. I didn't know I was owing money on the bill. I'm like, absolutely. Like, how much is the bill? Because I'm thinking North America, you usually get about 3 months before they cut you
right.
off. And looks at me and he said whatever it was in colones, and he's like $5. And I started to laugh out loud. Like, and he was not impressed. And I said, you cut off my phone over $5? And very seriously, well, you didn't pay the bill. And I'm like, okay. I said, so can I just give you 20 and come back in a few months? No,
Oh my
you
Lord.
have to come back every month to pay the bill. I said, but I didn't get like a bill in the mail, or like I didn't know I had a bill. He said, you have a bill. You have to come pay the bill every month because you have a bill.
You have a phone, you have a bill.
Yeah. So I'm like, so I don't actually get a physical bill, and I have to know that I have to come back to pay within like a couple of days. And I don't know how much it is, but I come in and pay cash for my phone bill every month. I have to come in, even if it's only $5. Yes. Very serious. And I was like, okay, that's an adjustment. Same
That
thing
is
with the water bill.
hysterical.
The water bill too. And my daughter was great. If the water wasn't working, the phone wasn't working, or the electricity wasn't working, she would always say, Mom, did you pay the bill? And I'd have to think about it. And sometimes I would be like, and I would go to pay the bill. And they're like, no, you don't owe a bill. I'm like, oh, well, it's not working. So I thought maybe I forgot to pay. They're like, no, it must be just a problem. Other times like, oh yeah, you owe. Oh, okay, here. And
That's
that was a huge adjustment of not getting a bill, but knowing by which dates which bills were owed, but not getting a bill to know how much cash I had to bring to pay the bill.
and I think it's still mostly like that. I think so. That's awesome. Well, thank you once again for your time. I appreciate it so much. And for any of you who are watching and considering a life of an expat, it doesn't just have to be Costa Rica. You can pick any country that you think is your dream location and just start somewhere. Go visit it, stay a couple weeks, see if you like that, move to another place, stay a couple weeks, see if you like it, and then find the place where it just screams that you're home. And that may not even be forever, just like with Sally. It may be that it's your right now home and you'll find something else later. So if you enjoyed this podcast, remember to share it, to give it a like, to give it a comment, to subscribe, all of the things on all the different platforms, however you do that. And if you're in Costa Rica, obviously we're going to sign off by saying Pura Vida.